to the title, Friday at 7 on WIFF4. Now on Chronicle.
It was like winning a national championship.
A luxury auto giant.
We shall make automobiles from South Carolina famous throughout the world.
Celebrates a big milestone.
They are the wind of change that blew through South Carolina.
A vision with a global impact.
BMW gives us access to another part of the world.
3 letters. Call it the upstate home.
I love BMW, I love working for BMW, and I love what BMW stands for.
Welcome in South Carolina. We are ready to do business with you.
We take a lot of pride in producing these cars.
Now on Chronicle, BMW at 25.
Welcome to Chronicle. I'm Jane Rovelo. BMW. 3 letters that changed the face of Spartanburg, Greenville, South Carolina, and the automotive industry in the United States. It all began 25 years ago. First tonight, our Nigel Robertson shows us the ultimate driving machine is still moving on all cylinders.
On the surface, sure, it's just a car.
Created a lot of energy.
But how the car got here,
It was like winning a national championship.
the people who built it,
The minute I applied, I got the phone call, which almost took my breath away.
and what it's done since that has changed countless lives and impacted generations.
You know, 25 years ago, the majority of us were not in automotive industries unless we came down from Ohio or Michigan or some of the other classical car-building states.
Please welcome Bobby Hitt.
Before BMW, Commerce Secretary Bobby Hitt said South Carolina was what he called a 3T state.
Textile, tobacco, and tourism. That's who we were as a state. That was our signature.
This investment will create, according to all of the calculations, in its first phase, about 10,000 jobs total.
But in the early 1990s, South Carolina Governor Carroll Campbell did something that to this day is one of the most interesting parts of the BMW story.
He recruited BMW on a cold call. It was pretty amazing what he did, I must say. And he developed relationships. And one of the things I will say, having been in this job I'm in now for 8.5 years, it's all about relationships. The whole world's about relationships.
But he had to prove it would work. Would the people who call upstate South Carolina home even want a German automotive company in their backyard? I mean, after all, this isn't Detroit. Building cars, especially a foreign car at the time, is something the people of South Carolina knew nothing about.
So on my first day, they told me, you are responsible for hiring the workforce.
As we know now, it did work.
From day one, we never stopped expanding. For 25 years, we're expanding in one way or the other. We're hiring more and more people. Our supplier base is getting larger and larger.
Fast forward to today, this BMW plant is a global success story, both for the company and the state of South Carolina. The state has more than 400 automotive-related companies. Call South Carolina home. Michelin, Bridgestone, Mercedes-Benz, Volvo. Those are just some of the names making up the state's more than $27 billion automotive industry. For BMW, 1,500 cars are made every day. Many loaded onto the rail line at the inland port in Greer and then make their way to the port of Charleston. There, these South Carolina-made vehicles are loaded onto a massive cargo ship and travel to all corners of the world.
It really did change the whole dynamics of the upstate. For every job we have here, there's 6 or 7 that are created in the community. Like I said, we have over 10,000 people here now. So to go back and speak to Governor Campbell would say made an impact on this state that'll just be generations impacted.
Welcome in South Carolina. We are ready to do business with you.
Remember, this all started with a cold call. from the governor's office to BMW in Germany.
That was part of Carroll Campbell's strategy. There's no question about that. That was his dream. He understood what it meant to have an auto plant and really to bring the auto industry, and that it would touch all corners of South Carolina. That's what he wanted, and that certainly is what he got.
As a new South governor, Carroll Campbell was first a businessman. He was elected to office on a platform of economic development. He knew that the time was near that textile manufacturing would no longer be South Carolina's primary economic engine, and he was determined to introduce automobiles as the state's path to the future. In hindsight, it's hard to believe that luring BMW manufacturing to the upstate was a hard-fought battle, but it all came together against the odds.
No, it was tortuous. The whole thing was tortuous.
BMW is known worldwide as the quality in the automobile industry.
Governor Carroll Campbell began recruiting BMW years before the automaker announced it was looking to go abroad. He built strong relationships with company leaders, winning their trust.
If you can become a Republican governor in a Democrat state, surely you could figure out a way to put South Carolina in the leadership in the Southeast manufacturing, and that's what he did.
Then he convinced the German automaker that his small southern state could provide the best infrastructure and workforce for its first plant outside of Germany.
I think he had that vision to see if we bring all of these pieces together, the universities, the ports, the technical education system, and just the general intelligence of the people of South Carolina, we could really make something of that.
Getting an impressive incentive package from the General Assembly was imperative. But big incentives and land deals were new to South Carolina's way of recruiting business, and conservative legislators in Campbell's own party pushed back.
We couldn't have gotten the BMW deal done without the Democrats. Remember, the Democrats were in charge. But they were able to sit down with the governor and work with him for the good of the state.
Campbell got the entire legislature on board. Then he banked on something bold.
He picks up the telephone and calls Buck Mickle, a Greenville business legend. I says, Buck, I got an idea. I need your help.
The governor wanted business leaders to pledge $5 million to BMW in a show of support for the project.
It wasn't a half hour later when Buck called back. He said, Carroll, you got your $5 million commitment.
The state's first Commerce Secretary, John Warren, then led an unconventional push for a commitment from the automaker. It all came together right here, poolside at the governor's mansion. BMW executives met right here with Governor Carroll Campbell and his team. They wrote out the initial agreement on a napkin, and then they sealed the deal with a handshake. BMW was only interested in the Spartanburg County property along I-85 next to the airport, 1,000 acres in the Flatwood community, land that had been in families for generations.
Went out with a whole group of people to knock on the doors to make offers. And people were running out the back doors to their uncle's house going, they're buying the land, they're buying the land.
That man is at our house who wants to see me regarding the quick purchase of all our land and house here.
Phil Davis recorded the day.
The key was BMW could go to Omaha, Nebraska as an alternative. My dad's two sisters.
The people of Flatwood wanted their state to win BMW, but a few landowners held out, including Phil.
There's one unsung hero in this saga, is late Senator Vern Smith from Greer.
Senator Vern Smith came to our house to encourage me to sign on my 20 acres that Dad had put, in my name.
Senator Vern Smith convinced every landowner to sell. The Port Authority bought most of it, and at fair market value.
At the time it was bittersweet, but looking back and seeing what BMW has accomplished,
it's my honor to break this ground.
We can't imagine it really any other way.
And that initial investment, the $300 million incentive package that was so hard won, led to a total economic output of $16.6 billion as of 2014. A study by the University of South Carolina's Darla Moore School of Business also shows that for every direct job that BMW has created in the state, there are 3 additional jobs created elsewhere in the economy. That's almost 31,000 jobs. Today, BMW builds more than 1,400 vehicles a day at its South Carolina plant, more than 4 million in the last 20 years. And with all that, BMW has built a new way of life in the upstate. Michael Cogdill now with the impact that travels way beyond those 3 little letters.
That GSP runway got longer, 11,000 feet now. So much of everything went higher.
There's over 11,000 employees on the site, but the additional economic impact that's come with it.
Those 3 little letters raised up a whole new way of life.
It really set off our confidence in ourselves.
BMW and its suppliers supplied more than 20,000 new jobs. Education got higher as well. Ted Pitts runs the State Chamber of Commerce.
And the jobs that come along with that aren't dirty labor jobs. They're actually highly technical jobs. In STEM and STEM education, diversified manufacturing has really pushed that down into our K-12 education system with mechatronics programs and other things.
We are wed to BMW. BMW is also wed to us. So we are one and the same.
That's Chris Stone. He recruits visitors to come to Greenville, and for him, it's like the city and BMW are married. It's like a 25th anniversary for a couple. And they get along so well, you can taste it.
BMW has been a huge help in growing our restaurant scene.
Too many new brands to count, so many visitors.
BMW gives us access to another part of the world.
The feel of Greenville changed, in part because Europeans helped to change it.
This really feels like Europe. It's a mix of uses, it's human scale, it's easy to get around.
Easier to make a good living all over the upstate. BMW's human history nearly always comes down to the money. In 2017, people in Spartanburg made 167% more than in 1990, 148% more in Greenville. Even with the higher wages, business and jobs keep coming.
And it took the upstate and really catapulted into putting it on everybody's radar screen as a place that's good to do business.
It's the jobs piece, it's allowing your citizenry to go to work.
Which here again made human life work differently. From that newly expanded airport to so many new places to live, all offspring of a marriage of brands.
We begin to look good because we're the ones who are helping to make the ultimate driving machine.
And in a place that grew up on old textile machines, those jobs left, BMW came, and so came that whole new attitude.
It makes us believe more in ourselves and makes us believe that whatever it is that we want to accomplish, that we can do that.
When you look at what the future looks like for South Carolina and for BMW, I think it's bright.
Because all kinds of people keep coming to see why BMW came.
On the wage numbers, it's important to note that South Carolina still has room to improve. The increases you just heard are below the national, regional, and statewide income growth rates in that same period.
Building the ultimate driving machine.
And when you drive this vehicle, you know that it was built with not only pride, not only passion, but with the best that we have.
We take you to the assembly line when Chronicle continues.
Before you can experience everything that a South Carolina-made BMW can offer, you have to build it. Each car takes about 36 hours to build. It's a global effort to make every single vehicle. Here again is Nigel Robertson.
The ultimate driving machine starts out, well, small, as about 550 pieces of metal. Each one an important piece of a puzzle that will move from this to this, and finally to this. But first, let's go back to the beginning. Meet Renita Williams.
I'm a section manager in Hall 52 Assembly.
She knows BMW.
I've been here 25 years.
In fact, she is one of the long list of employees who helped shape BMW into everything it is today.
When I first heard about BMW coming to Spartanburg, I took a chance and applied. And luckily for me, I was one of the ones selected. I'm number 266. So I'm the 266th employee of BMW.
Back when they first started making BMWs in Spartanburg County, production was very hands-on, literally.
In the mid to late 90s, there was only about 2% automation. There were maybe 20 robots with the original Z3 vehicle that we produced.
Chad Johnson has seen everything change.
You know, that changed with the growth of automation and additional robots.
Now the technology here is everywhere.
Today, around the world in most BMW body shops, it's 98% automated.
BMW Spartanburg is the largest manufacturing plant for the company worldwide. 11,000 associates work here. Parts are coming in from 60 different suppliers across South Carolina, 300 across the United States, and 600 different suppliers worldwide.
But it's right here where you could say each car starts to come alive.
Assembly is where the vehicle gets its birth. And I say that because the very first station in assembly is where we give that individual vehicle their identification number. And so it comes to life there.
That number is like the car's DNA.
And so without that, then it's just another vehicle.
Letting every station know exactly what each car gets next.
We put everything on that vehicle, from the sound installation, the doors, the IP, the seats, the console, and the engine that brings it to life, the engine that gives it its power. So everything that you can see, the windshields, everything that you can hear, the radio, everything that you can touch, it brings it to life here in assembly.
Then comes the final piece.
And that is where we stamp it and say,
that final stamp of approval.
Yes, this is premium quality. This represents BMW. And when you drive this vehicle, you know that it was built with not only pride, not only passion, but with the best that we have. And that BMW emblem represents that.
And once the vehicle is made, delivery can take up to 5 to 8 weeks, if not more.
Job opportunities far beyond the assembly line.
If someone told me I would be doing this, I would have never thought it in a million years.
Still ahead on Chronicle.
Over the past 25 years, BMW has helped other businesses grow as well. They have more than 300 suppliers all across the country. 40 of them are right here in South Carolina. Amanda Crawford introduces us to a few people whose lives have been changed because of BMW.
To Dion Sandiford, these are more than machines.
This is my baby.
And her embroidery business?
To see a flat image come to life in the vibrant colors
is more than a job.
That brings me joy.
Years ago, Dion left corporate America to pursue her passion.
This is the first one that I got.
Now she puts logos on shirts, bags, and blankets.
You're taking this object and then you're putting it on a person, and it lives. It lives when it walks down the street. It lives when they walk through their company. It lives as they go to different events. So they carry a little piece of me with them.
Dion never guessed her small at-home business would make it to a national level. But that's exactly what happened when she met a woman from BMW.
You know what people say, if someone told me I would be doing this, I would have never thought it in a million years. And I used to say, yeah, right, sure. I'm one of those people.
BMW connected her to one of their suppliers. Benor Logistics is now one of Dion's biggest clients.
Over the past few years, Dion has made thousands of these shirts for Benor Logistics. They start right here in her basement, or as she likes to call it, her manufacturing facility. Then they end up here at Benor, and employees wear them all across the Southeast.
Yeah, she always comes through. She'll drive on Sunday afternoon and meet us.
Joan Benor met Dion several years ago at a diversity conference BMW offers.
We may call her the morning of and say, hey, I apologize, but can you get us some gifts that have embroidery on it really quickly?
Her family's logistics company relies on Dion, and BMW relies on them.
So we pick up from about 180 different suppliers to bring in those 1,500 different loads a day.
Benor employs more than 1,000 people in the upstate. The BMW Diversity Conference introduced them to many new partners.
Their support in trying to grow women-owned and minority-owned businesses, and actually they really push the veteran-owned companies as well.
It's an event that's been growing for years at BMW.
First year that we hosted this, we had 600 attendees.
Louise Connell runs it and tells me they now have more than 200 companies involved.
And now we're close to almost 3,000 attendees.
In fact, Connell is the woman who recruited Dion.
Dion came up to me and she said, "Oh, I guess I probably couldn't do anything in the automotive world."
She explained BMW is connected to dozens of companies, and Dion could do business with any of them.
All of our suppliers, BMW, we all have things that are embroidered. I said, you need to come bring some of your work with you to our event.
So Miss Louise just saw something in me, and she said, you need to attend this event, and I have been going every year since.
Now Dion embroiders logos for multiple big businesses. She knows it's her own hard work and determination that got her here. She's grateful BMW chose to build in the upstate, though.
A company that big, they would not meet someone like me. And the people that are vendors to them, the other large companies, they would not come across someone like me.
She wants to grow even bigger, and now she knows that's possible.
So it's great when you can see your work living and walking. So when people see, well, what has BMW done? This is what BMW has done.
Dion says that even though she wants her business to grow, she hopes to keep working out of her own home as long as possible.
Coming up next on Chronicle.
And to realize how large and how great and grand it is now.
From small beginnings to 11,000 strong. And it's not just this German automaker that gives the upstate an international flavor.
We are, in fact, an international state, and we're proud of it.
Matter of fact, IFF4.
BMW leaders say their employees are the foundation of all of their success in the upstate. It's a workforce that spans decades and generations. Amanda Crawford shows us how some workers have grown right along with the company.
For 25 years, Chris Kirby has made this production floor his home.
You know where Joel says? At the time, it was a learning experience.
And building BMWs, his passion.
What it has done for this state, and to be part of that, it makes you very proud, especially being a native born South Carolina.
Chris shared that pride and stories from work with his son at home.
Well, obviously, he was a lot smaller then.
Kyle was young, but he was listening.
What I remember as a child is, those trips that, he left here, went to Germany for 2 weeks or Germany for 6 weeks.
Oh, have a good weekend. Yes, sir.
He watched his dad excel, and he watched BMW become part of his community.
Good to see you, man.
My initial mindset when I graduated college is, I did not want to come here and work. I just kind of wanted to choose my own path.
Kyle moved to Texas, but he couldn't stay away from home.
I could see that, this place was booming. It was a whole lot larger than it was when he first started.
And I remember he came to me and he said, Dad, I think I want to go to BMW.
Now Kyle's been here 7 years and is in the management training program.
For the first several years, BMW promised to only hire within a 50-mile radius, and they said no family members. But they grew so fast, they had to change their rules. Now, the Kirbys are one of many families working here.
To see it start so small and to realize how large and how great and grand it is now, it's just fantastic.
When Sky Foster started, there were just a few employees.
My lucky number was to be the 5th person hired for BMW manufacturing. And oh, what a day that was.
At the grand opening, Foster was the one who drove out the first American-made BMW 318i, covered in the names of the employees who built it.
It gave me the greatest sense of pride to be a part of what was to come.
And welcome to BMW Plant Spartanburg.
Sky now runs corporate communications and knows this massive operation wouldn't be possible without those first people she helped hire.
The production area, that's the rhythm of the organization. It's the heart of the organization.
Chris will tell you it's a family, and not just because his son works here too.
Love you. It's like in any other family. You're going to have your little disputes and your arguments. At the end of the day, you're going to stand together.
Because without this force, these thousands of men and women, the upstate would look a lot different. And so would the BMWs driving down the interstate.
I've got a contribution in every one of those cars, still to this day, and maybe a couple more years down the road.
There's no doubt in my mind I plan on being here until I retire.
This kind of feels like home.
It feels like home. It is.
You heard Amanda say Kyle Kirby is in the management program. He has several months left. It's a highly selective program. They only choose 12 to 15 associates each year. Well, some people recognized early on that BMW would be a game changer, not only for the state's economy, but personally as well. Carol Clark introduces us to one man who saw the potential and drove his career in a different direction.
That's him. That's Ken Sparks. In 1989, at the height of Hurricane Hugo, he was the lone figure leaning into the ferocious winds.
Well, there's nothing like live television. I feel like I'm in a receiving line. Hello, Senator.
It is, as somebody once said, like seeing America with its back turned.
An iconic moment in a career full of them, a storied career that began in January 1976.
Coming up later in this hour, we'll take a look at Pearl Harbor.
But a turn signal showed up in Ken's career 20 years later. A simple phone call in 1992 from South Carolina's governor.
He just simply said, Ken, this is Carol Campbell. Yes, Governor. Ken, it's time you took the BMW story seriously.
The story at that time, the legendary German car maker considering South Carolina for its U.S. plant.
The BMW plant called the manufacturer, which is about 20 miles away.
We very quickly went to Germany to see what kind of company is BMW, what kind of neighbor would they be. And that was by then in May, and the decision was coming in June, and covering that story, it changed the future outlook for South Carolina dramatically, and of course certainly changed my life too at the same time.
He left WYFF and started his own documentary production company, his dream job.
This is the first of thousands to come.
The first project, once in a lifetime, the making of BMWs in South Carolina, a copy of which went into the glove box of each car that came off the line. Before that, though, he returned to his roots briefly to help us cover the grand opening of the BMW plant in 1994.
From that, I ended up making a great many films for BMW in the course of years, and then it became almost natural, and the company said, well, you know probably more about us now than most people that work for us, and would you consider actually coming to work for us?
He became head of internal communications for the plant.
And I decided to create a television network for BMW, and which of course still works to this day, and became the prototype for the internal television network that BMW uses all over the world.
Monitors, screens throughout the plant, daily information for the associates and the teams. With the internet overloaded, Ken says it kept the company informed and united in the days after 9/11. A few years ago, Ken Sparks was behind the remodeling of this place, the Zentrum, originally put here as a place for the associates to learn about company's past and its future. But with its location along I-85, it also serves as a calling card for the public.
I became the U.S. national spokesperson, keenly aware that these would be the most closely scrutinized BMWs ever made.
For 9 years, the man responsible for making sure the BMW story had a national and international audience.
There's going to be a lot of excitement here.
20 years in television, 20 years at BMW. Earlier this year, Ken decided the time had come to retire.
So so there's the I-8 that got the applause up on Capitol Hill.
The day we talked was his first time back at the upstate plant since retirement.
BMW fascinated me simply by the nature of itself, but then as I got to know it, I developed a whole new respect for it, that it is a company that values honesty and truth.
And the truth is, its success became success for Ken Sparks, too.
Ken Sparks' documentary on BMW, Making Cars in the USA, became a textbook of sorts for major business schools across the country. What BMW did in the U.S. was considered novel, unusual, and risky enough that the documentary became required viewing, especially in the MBA programs. The influence of several international companies was felt before BMW called South Carolina home, but the symphony of languages and flavors now experienced in the upstate adds a whole new dimension to our lifestyle. In the 1920s, the upstate was known as the textile capital of the world.
The upstate of South Carolina had a pretty strong international culture to begin with. The textile industry had done that.
Then came tires in the 1980s and automobiles in the 1990s.
Michelin put their North American headquarters in the upstate. And when BMW made the decision in the 90s to come to South Carolina, it really put two international brands headquartered right there in the same region of a state.
My honor to break this ground.
Celebrating BMW's groundbreaking in 1992, Governor Carroll Campbell gave a tip of the hat to the strong foundation laid by other international companies.
You'll find a diversity of background among our corporate citizens. Today you can walk down Main Street and hear the music of several languages. In Spartanburg County alone, there are 80 international companies that call South Carolina home.
An international base built over decades.
We've had an office in Europe for 45 years as a state.
As a result, the South Carolina Commerce Department can today boast big international numbers.
We have led the country on a per capita basis in having the highest level per capita of foreign direct investment.
In the 1970s, Greenville's Austrian-born mayor, Max Heller, worked with local business leaders to breathe new life into a dying downtown by creating a European feel along Main Street. And when BMW came, along with its international suppliers, Mayor Heller's vision came alive.
They started frequenting the restaurants that were there, and as a result, a whole new demand began.
A demand for knowledge also grew from BMW. So in the early 2000s, Clemson University's International Center for Automotive Research was born, CU ICAR.
In the very beginning, we said we want this to be the leader in automotive research and education in the world, not in our state or in our region or in the U.S., but in the world.
Growing from a multi-million-dollar gift from BMW and a significant investment from the state, CU ICAR is a big presence along Interstate 85, welcoming auto companies, their suppliers, and students from throughout the world.
I sometimes think most of us think it just sounds like money when we hear a foreign accent in South Carolina, because it has paid off for us very well.
In the upstate alone, there are now 460 foreign-owned firms from 34 different countries, a wide variety of language classes, and restaurants with cuisine from 18 different countries.
I think it gets in all facets of the culture of South Carolina that we are, in fact, an international state, and we're proud of it. And we should celebrate that.
South Carolina's international family members have become a strong part of the fabric of the Palmetto State. Through CU ICAR, Clemson University was able to offer the first graduate PhD program in automotive engineering in the country. More than 600 students have now graduated with advanced degrees since the program was founded, and they represent more than 20 countries from around the world.
Just a little faster. Gas, hard gas. Come on, maintain. Go to Roger, steering jack.
A trip around the Performance Center track when Chronicle continues. Team to trust, WIFF News 4.
5 years after BMW opened its plant in Greer, the company gave everyday drivers a new destination to hone their skills. And for 20 years, people have been coming here from all over the world. Here now is Jeff Hart.
The anticipation hangs in the air for those arriving. This isn't just another day. It's the experience they've been waiting for. This is the BMW Performance Center.
Lucky enough, I got chosen to do this.
Wallace Mom is with a group from Hawaii.
Be ready to steer into the skid.
He works at a BMW dealership in Honolulu.
Because you're never going to experience it like this any other time, hopefully.
He's a sales manager there.
Yeah, I love it. I love BMWs. BMWs are the cars.
I'm going to initiate some oversteer and swing the truck well before it starts to rotate.
Most everybody leaves with a smile on their face.
Mike Renner is one of the driving instructors at the Performance Center.
We have 12,000 people a year drive with us.
Born and raised in Greenville, he was racing BMWs professionally long before the ultimate driving machine was manufactured here.
This is the brand I prefer, right? And it's amazing that they would open up in my backyard and I would have this kind of opportunity.
And giving me the chance.
It's dynamic, safe, fun.
To take on the skid pad.
Not bad, not bad. Gonna do a little drift there. Second gear. Now, got to be more aggressive on the gas to get the rear out. Hold the steering faster. Bavarian horsepower is a terrible thing to waste, Jeff. It is not the easiest thing we do, and, you know, no one comes out here and just conquers it right away.
The Performance Center, with all of its tracks,
come on down, remember,
has driving schools.
100% brake pedal from start to finish.
Including one for teenagers.
That's the most important tool that you have when you're driving a car is your eyes.
July 3rd, 2012, John Humphrey's family suffered a devastating loss. His daughter, Victoria, died in a one-car crash.
So we agreed that we would do what we could to try to prevent another family from going through this.
Vic, as they called her, was a lifeguard who loved kids.
When you're driving, there's no lifeguard. You have to be willing to guard your own life.
Humphrey spearheads the Guard Your Life Challenge, sponsored by BMW, as an intentionally affordable training program for teens. Its specific mission,
rock and roll,
to train teens to safely react to road conditions and distractions. Since it began, just months after her death, roughly 1,600 young drivers have gone through this program.
Teenager learns a skill, and they go out and they avoid an accident. You can't measure that. You know, I feel like that we're honoring Victoria and allowed her dream to still come true.
Car buyers' dreams are also fulfilled.
So you know that your auto function is active.
At the Performance Center.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's a good experience.
Through the delivery program, they can come here to pick up their new BMW.
This has been on my list to come down to South Carolina and do the Performance Center delivery.
At no added charge.
All the technology that they put into it, all the luxury features.
He's driving his new X550i.
Here you go, Jared.
Thank you. All right, appreciate it.
Back home to Denver. But of all the heart-stopping moments, the off-road course here provides the ultimate cliffhanger experience. Whoa. Leave that to the professionals.
I don't feel like it was going up.
As they call it, learning to drive on the edge of physics.
I think it's a little donut here.
At the BMW Performance Center.
In the first 20 years of the Performance Center, they've burned through more than 50,000 tires.
Coming up next on Chronicle, giving back millions to the local community.
But BMW has always embraced that it was in America, and in America had to do things like in America.
The countdown is YFF News 4 today. Wake up and watch.
BMW Manufacturing has donated millions to nonprofit programs across the upstate and created programs to give the next generation a head start on their careers. As Gabrielle Komorowski reports, the need to give back was felt deeply on one of our country's darkest days.
Like so many after 9/11, the team at BMW was moved.
We thought we had to do something.
So they made something, 10 white X5s to give to the American Red Cross.
None of us ever imagined that we would build X5s for use in a disaster relief here in the United States. But then none of us imagined that we would see in our lifetime the events we witnessed 2 weeks ago.
And I remember having those lined up. I mean, it was a terribly emotional thing for everybody in the plant.
South Carolina's Secretary of Commerce, Bobby Hitt, was the manager of corporate affairs at BMW at the time.
I remember there was a little controversy because it was like, well, yeah, but they're BMWs. You know, the Red Cross shouldn't be seen riding around in BMW. I said, they're American-made BMW.
Those X5s had a tag that said, proud to call South Carolina home. But Hitt says understanding the American way of giving back was initially a bit of a learning curve for the employees used to the way things are done in Germany.
Your college is paid for, your insurance is paid for, your retirement's paid for, everything's paid for by the government. So it's a different system. There is no united way, but BMW has always embraced that it was in America, and in America it had to do things like in America.
That also meant giving back to the local community. In the last 2 decades, BMW Manufacturing has donated more than $40 million to organizations across the upstate. It's the title sponsor of the BMW Charity Pro and Golf Tournament, bringing celebrities and professionals to the area. We were there this year as organizers presented a $20,000 check to Upstate Warrior Solution to help veterans and their families with life after service.
It helps us to further our endeavors as we try to tackle the veterans' needs in the community.
We're going to set a tool center point.
And BMW invests in people with potential.
Grip it.
Starting in the classroom.
You're ready to go.
Miles Perry is in the mechatronics program at Greenville Technical College.
And that's exactly what you want to see, so that's a real good job, Miles.
He attends class full-time and works at the BMW plant.
It's given me a lot of on-the-job training so I can really put what I'm learning at school into motion. We want to hold down axis 1 again, and we can back it up a little bit more.
It's a partnership program with local technical colleges called BMW Scholars.
Look like it's on the money.
Right on the money.
Seeing what you need to do and trying to program something to do it to where we'll do it the same way every time is just real exciting for me.
The students are paired with a mentor, and BMW helps pay for tuition, provides health care benefits, and pays students for their work at BMW.
You're investing not only in qualified people, but you're investing in their education as well to produce future leaders for the company.
When Miles graduates, he will be offered a full-time job at BMW.
I think it's a life-changing thing for the better.
Whether the student graduates from a program and stays with us or not, we've helped the economy in the upstate by giving other companies desirable people to hire.
Building a bright future.
So far, 218 scholars like Miles have graduated from the BMW Scholars Program. That's since it started in 2011. And we're told that the students are not obligated to commit to a job at BMW, but they are hired about 99% of the time.
We went from where we were as a state to where we needed to be and where we continue to go.
Still ahead on Chronicle, South Carolina looks to the future.
I call you in.
So what does the future hold for BMW manufacturing? The plant president and CEO tells our Nigel Robertson just how big he believes the future can be.
The body, the engine, the brand. One look at the 2019 BMW X7 and you can see the very latest in technology and design.
We name it Technology Open.
But what about the future here?
We want to give the customer the power of choice. You choose what you want. If you want to have a hybrid car, if you want to have an electric car, whatever you want, you as a customer decide, and we have to be able to produce it.
That means every car that moves down this line could have its own different, its own unique technology inside. That means the next big expansion here will depend on what the customers want.
Here in LA3, we produce batteries for our plug-in hybrid electric vehicles.
For example, take a look inside BMW's electric car battery production facility. The company just invested $10 million into it as orders increased.
Such a sustainable project, and electrification and sustainable mobility is something that I'm very proud to be a part of. This instrumental portion going forward in BMW's future.
And this will grow, for sure, with the demand of electric cars.
200 people employed right now, with more needed as demand grows. But with the global footprint in each of these cars, there is a growing fear when it comes to trade.
The export business depends on good rules, because if we have high tariffs, then we might lose competitiveness.
He says BMW's future in South Carolina is a strong one because of its people.
Get the best people, keep the best people, and for this you need to have this family feeling and the pride in the product, what you do.
And consider this, as advancements are made for cars on the road, it's inevitable. Advancements in fuel consumption, connectivity, green energy, and design will happen here and in the air as well.
If you talk to my friends from Boeing, they will tell you they're here because how we demonstrated our capability with BMW. What we showed was what the men and women of South Carolina are capable of producing.
All of this positions South Carolina for a future the state commerce secretary says makes his job much easier.
When BMW located in South Carolina, but that was the wind of change. That is when we went from where we were as a state to where we needed to be and where we continue to go.
Let us show our latest product.
Moving forward with both hands on the wheel and our foot on the gas.
We take a lot of pride in producing this house.
The ultimate driving machine that is South Carolina made.
And I think you can feel it everywhere.
In the past 25 years, more than 4.7 million BMWs have been produced here at the Spartanburg plant alone. The BMW complex sits along Interstate 85, a true living example of how a vision for something very special can become reality through negotiation and hard work. That legacy is obvious in everything we've highlighted: the jobs, economic impact, community involvement, not to mention a world-class product and company that puts upstate South Carolina on the international manufacturing map. Thank you for joining us for Chronicle, BMW at 25. I'm Jane Below. Goodbye.
My teacher